Outdoor Canada. Don't miss a single issue of Canada's only national hunting and fishing magazine. Subscribe to Outdoor Canada today.
You know what's really great is when you see a commercial like the Outdoor Canada commercial, and you see all these guys coming on, and all the pictures of Gord Pizer and Eric Luzak, and you see all these guys that people that over the years we've had the opportunity to work with and have a pleasure to work with. Great guys. And but right now we're going to bring you Dannenmueller, who's going to be talking crappie. So or panfish, I guess it's one way or the other. You're going to get you into fishing, but we're getting more in depth with him and just seeing what makes him tick and how he works and maybe how he approaches some of these lakes, or just kind of getting to know more about Dan. And the good thing about that is, because he'll be back at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show next year, and when he's back, you're going to have that much more insight of what his backing is and how much knowledge he's got to bring you. So let's bring on Dan, and let's see how he's doing here. Dan, how are
Hello,
you?
everybody.
Welcome to this year's Spring Fishing and Boat Show. It's kind of a little bit of a different deal, but we just kind of thought, you guys do such a great job on your own platforms, and I know that you have YouTube channels, and you do all the, because I watch them. Like, I've actually watched some of your shows, and they're absolutely great because what's nice about it is, your rig last year. Now you got a new rig this year. We'll get into that in a minute. But last year, through your YouTube channel, I was like never so impressed in how much equipment you have on your boat. It's absolutely crazy, right? So it's a pleasure to have you here. And next year, my friend, you will be back at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. I promise you. And so what are you doing in this time by yourself? Like, what do you got going on? Like, it's obviously COVID. Are you fishing, or what are you doing?
Right now, we're pre-fishing for the first qualifier, the American Crappie Trail for this year, on our own river, the Alabama River. So right now, we were just out today. We've been out the last 3 days, and it's tough fishing. So, but we love getting out. We are out fishing. This year, it's going to get normal as far as the tournaments that we're going to go fish and the shows we're doing, riders camps. We got a busy year. We'd love to be back at your show.
And we want you back there. Trust me, we want to be back at the show. So so let's just go into how many years have you been fishing like crappie tournaments? Did you start with crappie tournaments? Like, have crappie tournaments been around that long? Like, where did you start? Where did Dan start?
Dan started in the crappie side about 13 years ago, and but I've been bass fishing professionally probably since I was about 25 years old. And it was in the beginning, it was very slow, back in those years, because I might be close to ancient, that's what they call me, ancient. But the bottom line was I started in bass and did real well, ranked up there, Rookie of the Year in the Military Bass Association, which is now the ABA, and fished team events and all of that. I enjoyed it so much. And one year I was really heavy into media, and I got offered to come down and shoot some shows and take out riders in media boats for the crappie experience. And I got hooked on it big time. And when I got hooked on it, I gradually walked away from my bass fishing tournaments and trails and actually took up the crappie fishing because I couldn't do both. And so that's how I got into it. And then just 2 years in, after walking, I got to fish as a teammate with Bill Braswell, who was a champion himself. And then we won 2 Angler of the Year awards in a row in 2011 and 2012. And so since then, I've been fishing the pro circuits for crappie and supporting them, and writing 2 magazines with my editors for Crappie Now and Catfish Now.
Wow. So how many boat, like, I know, like, we run bass tournaments here in Canada. So, like, with the crappie tournaments down there, like how many boats are in these tournaments? Like, is it similar to bass? Is there more? Is there less? Like,
There's and most of them are team events. So you have a team member. I fish with my wife. Sue fishes with me now, and we fish as a team and have for the last 4 years. And the number of boats or number of participants would be doubled because you got two people, kind of like where you have a boater and non-boater when we fished in the circuits, both in your area up in Canada and the United States. And so we have right now, we average somewhere around 60 boats, a national qualifier. Some events like the championship last year for one of the trails, we had 100 and I think it was 140 boats in that one. So 2 anglers per boat, you had 280. And then we then had last year in one of the qualifiers, 150 boats. So pretty comparable,
yeah, yeah. Wow. But like it is a different game. Like, and people don't realize how much work goes into panfish fishing because
yes.
like and unless the person can go into your YouTube channel. Do you remember that episode that I'm talking about where you showed the boat and like now do you have the same boat this year? What are you running this year?
This year I'm running a Bass Cat. I've been running Ranger for almost 20 years.
Okay.
And I started out in Bass Cat. So I've completely changed my rigging.
Yeah.
And I do, as you know, a complete layout of the whole boat. About to get ready to do that, to teach people, show people how we do it. And let me tell you, crappie fishermen spare no dollars in rigging our boats. Right now I'm running 3 12-inch and up Garmin's on the front end of the boat, one for mapping, 2 for live scopes. We're running dual live scopes in the front of the boat, pinpointing the fish. So, yeah, we spare nothing. And we got rod holder, Driftmaster rod holders for pushing, and we got them for pulling. And we pull planer boards, much like what you do with walleye.
Planer
We
boards.
do it.
It's like planer boards for crappie, like paper mouth fish. You're using planer boards on these fish?
Yes. Only we're using a little bit smaller. Nick and Bruce have us fixed up now with an awesome, what's called the Awesome board, and which is a smaller board. And then we run also the 12-inch boards with flags. And so we'll pull crankbaits, road runners, we'll pull, whatever it takes when the fish are in that mode for pulling, when pulling is correct. And I'm also tied into Mark Romanek, who I represent him for precision trolling data. Yeah. And that stuff is cool. That's just cool stuff. So yeah, I'm high tech.
Dude, like you're telling me that you're fishing with 8 rods in your boat at one time, and it's obviously 2 of you. That's legal for the state. And so how do you not like run 8? Because you're not in a big charter boat. Like you're technically, what's your boat? 20 feet, 21 feet. And the thing is, it's like you got 8 rods coming out of your boat. Like that's a lot of rods.
It is, and it can be a cluster at times with 2 of you. Running boards if you're pulling, if you're pushing, we just fished in Florida at a tournament no more than 2 weeks ago on the St. Johns River, and that was our first tournament. And we had 5 rods out at that point, and we pushed up on this hump, and all of a sudden 5 rods went down. Wow. And we had, and I'll tell you a story a little bit about what happened with a net and all that kind of thing. But there's a story there. And but we caught all 3 fish, and then we had a gar on that was probably a 4-footer, and we had a catfish on another one. So it was quite interesting, and that all happened in a second. All the things went down at one time. So yeah, it can be quite interesting with all those rods.
Wow. So what's the story?
The story. Well, Sue and I, first is she had 2 rods go down first, then immediately I had 2 rods go down, and then the 5th one went down about seconds later. What happened is that so she tried to pull one up, and it was a good fish. It was if we go by inches, which is a lot of people go by inches instead of weight, this fish was probably a 14-incher, and in fact all of them were around 14 to 15 inches. And so I pulled up that first one, and she hands me the rod, and I've got the fish. She's trying to get the net, and she's got the net in her hand. Net's a little heavy for her. She's extending that net out to about 8 feet, because that's what we do. And because we're using like 14-foot rods. So this fish, we get him in the net, and then she hands me the other rod that's got another fish on it. So I've got one rod in one hand. I've got the other rod with a fish, and none of them have been unplugged. And I bring that fish up. So she goes down to try to net the other one, and the net falls out of her hand, and fish, net, rod, everything goes overboard. And so here's the great news of this story. We saved it all. I pulled up the other rod. It was hooked in with we use double hooks. The upper hook was hooked into the net. So I lifted net, fish, and all of them came up together, and we put 4 fish in the live well within minutes.
So what happened at the end of the day? Did they count? Did you cash a big check?
Yeah, we caught 20 pounds of crappie. That 14 crappie that weighed 20 pounds in 2 days.
That's amazing, dude.
So, but the thing was, we saved all this. Now, we had a mess with rods. It took us probably another 20 minutes to sort out lines and everything else. And remember, I still had that 4-foot gar on the other side in a rod holder, and he was going to town, messing me up over on the other side. So, but you know what? I finally got him up to the boat and wore him out, and finally just jerked the rod out of his teeth. So, but it was so funny. And so,
wow. You know, a lot of things happen. Like, you know, when guys are fishing, just normal, like this, like not celebrities, not like just not professionals, but things happen when you're in a boat. Things happen like that. You know, you flip over, you step over a net, you step over a rod. And what would you say is probably your most? I don't know if I want to call it your,
a
your
boner
moment.
minute.
Yeah.
Have a real boner minute. I was in a tournament, a bass tournament. And if anybody's familiar with Louisiana, I was on Lake Bistineau. It's full of cypress trees. And I was out there, and it was in the middle of a thunderstorm. And so I was in the tournament. So I wasn't going to let any fish go or anything happen. And by the way, at that time, I didn't have a lot of money, and I had some expensive, a couple of rods and reels. And I was about to win this tournament. And so it was in the afternoon, and it was cold and wet, and it was thundering and lightning and raining. And I pitched up to this tree and got a 3-pound bass on. And with it raining so much, the rod fell out of my hand. It slipped right out of my hands with that fish on. I said, I'm not losing this rod. And the rod was still on there. The fish was still on there. I fell overboard. I went in. It was only about 4 feet deep. So here I am standing in the water. I grab my rod and I pull that fish up, grab the fish, put the fish over back in the boat and the rod and reel, and I get back in wet as could be. And I made it through it all and won the tournament.
Wow. That's a story. You know what? I just want to say a little quick story, because it was a few years back, and I was emceeing a tournament up where on Rice Lake, and a couple of young lads, they won the tournament. They had the tournament won, and he was so excited, just like you. That's why I'm thinking of it, because he was just as excited as you are. And the same thing happened. He caught the fish, and he fell in the water, right? But he came up with the net in one hand with the fish in it and the rod in the other hand, but he was out of the boat. So I'm looking at him and I'm saying, Anders, I hate to say this, but technically you were out of the boat. And he's looking at me, and his face went from that real happy look to like that. What are you talking about, Andy? And I'm like, you're not allowed to get out of your boat, son. His face would drop. But anyways, but it was so good, because he was telling us the story how he got out of the boat, and it was like, oh man, so it's all fun, right? If you can't have fun at fishing, then get out of the sport, because it's all about fun, whether you're at that level or where you are. And obviously you're at a different level. You get an opportunity, even the trade shows for you. That's pretty cool. It's not just our show you do. You're all over the States. You do all kinds of great things, and had the opportunity of meeting some really good people. So who's probably the most impressive, or who's probably laid the biggest impact on you out of all the people you've kind of met over these years?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Um, I think well, one of them was Bob Azumi. We did a show together for all of Canada, and we did it on crappie fishing, and then we went walleye fishing, and then captured the show also in walleye fishing. So I got to really experience Canada at that time with fishing and on Lake of the Woods, and we actually filmed the crappie show in 2 hours. We thought it was going to take 2 days, and we filmed it 2 hours. So Bob impressed me in the professionalism and who he is. I think the other person that's impressed me a lot is Jimmy Houston.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Houston is got to know Jimmy Houston personally, and had done some work together with him and Hank Parker. And so behind the scenes, in fact, Hank came up to me. He says, "I want to do a crappie show one of these days. So would you come?" I said, "Yeah, I'll come whenever you're ready. You just tell me, we'll do it." Well, Jimmy, at the time, we've been to shows, we've been to all kinds of stuff. So we kind of got together with, I don't know if you know this name or how many people really know, Mountain Man. With Mountain Man was on Duck Dynasty and Duck
Yeah.
Commander show. Well, John Godwin, that's on that show, John Godwin and I now are really good friends. And Mountain Man and I are really good friends. I've been on his radio show several times. And I think when you meet those people and the heart that is behind all of that, and Jimmy with his wife now, and Hank with his whole family, with his boys, and I grew up with those guys. I fished against those guys, and a lot of the guys that I fished against now in bass are now Vince. There's several of them that are on the MLF and Bass Tours now. They're my good friends, and so those all made an impression on me, to be yourself, to be true to yourself, and be true to the people out there. And so that's what I think I really enjoy about this, Andy, and why your show and others like it are so important to me. And so I do a lot of writers events. I have a lot of writers that work for me, and I want to tell you, every one of them have a story to tell, every one, and they all have experiences that are in our great outdoors that's so important to all of us, with all the kids that we've impacted, all the husband and wives. That's big stuff. And doing this with you, that's big stuff.
Are you calling me big?
Big stuff.
Big stuff here, folks.
I'm pretty big too. I'm a big stuff guy.
I should have looked at this, but I think you've been with us now for 8-9 years. How many years have you been? How many years? 8 or 9 years. And
eight and a half.
Yeah. So we won't add these COVID misses, but you know what? It is what it is. But it's funny how like you come down. You got James Linder. We've had Al Linder at the show. We've had all kinds of great anglers come out. We've had Mike Iaconelli. We've had them all at the show at one time or the other. And it's just funny how it's just like it's almost like we're all from the same world. How we just kind of get along and can tell stories and what it's all about. But I don't to get into your level professional, and I'm going to ask pretty much all the guys this, because we're going to be interviewing all the guys. Like, it was just as expensive back then as it is today, right? And but so when you were first fishing, I'm sure you didn't have a big Ranger boat. You must have started with that 14-foot tinner. Like
I did.
Right?
It was a 14-foot with a 9.9 Evinrude.
I started the same way, but I was a lot lighter, so that little boat felt
Me
like
too.
a big boat.
Me too.
I went across the thing. So it's funny, but then you get into it and you're driven by it. Sponsors start coming your way. You're knocking on sponsors' doors. You obviously you have your sure sponsors right now, right? And I find that nowadays sponsors are they know genuine people. I really think that that's a big thing, right?
Right.
So let's say for a young guy who wants to get into it, how would you tell a young guy to go and get a sponsor? Like how do you think, what are some of the key things that he should be using as a way to present himself to a sponsor to, make him look better than the rest? Is that a fair question?
It's a very fair question. Get asked a lot about that. How can you get all those sponsors, and why can't I get them right away? And is it just about my record in fishing? And it's the total person thing. being a retired military person, we always got evaluated about being a total person, not just being someone that went out and did your job just right, but you had to be balanced. And I think what the sponsors, and I know with Yamaha, one of my principals forever, I've been with Yamaha since 1983. 1983. And I think what really balanced it with my sponsors and why I work so well with them is I try to give back to them what they give to me. And that comes not just on the water, that comes answering questions about product, or answering, helping people with product, or helping them with fishing that we do. So for a young person out there, don't expect the moon out of the box. It's not going to happen. I started out having to go to grocery stores and getting Gatorade or some kind of drink and something as a sponsorship. And the only people back in those days, and Andy, this dates me, and back in those days were Berkeley. That was the only one that would do a sponsorship back in those days. And so I got on with Berkeley with some of the products that they had and started out there. And for years, I really, I got some sponsors, and I tried to only keep about 4 or 5. And the reason I have so many now is I can't a lot of times turn away the product that fits a niche for what I'm doing. And so I try to promote those sponsors, and I try to be real as a person with those people and be true to them, even if sometimes behind the scenes, it's not exactly what they want to hear, but I try to give them constructive things for their product that would help them. And it's up to them then, whether or not they accept those or not. And sometimes, and most time, they have an idea already. They just want some inputs to them. So just remember that you're not always going to have your name on everything, and that they're there just like you are to help their product and their product line. And if I can and you can help them to do that, then you have accomplished what they were after in a sponsorship. Be a true blue person. Always, always be truthful. Always, always be honest, and be forthright and speak from the heart. Passion means everything.
And everything you say is true, 100% true. Have you ever stuck your foot in your mouth? I hate to say that. I know I do all the time, so not even the only one to know the answer to that. But the thing is, I think everybody in our world, when you're dealing with products and sponsorship, but it's nice when you do have sponsors that understand, right? And the thing is, like Berkeley, it's you say that, and the thing is you know what? Think about that. That was 25 years ago. And and they were there before that, and you know what? They're still here today. I'm not saying, but some of these companies have been around for such a long time that have been supporting the sport, which is kind of cool. And even things behind the scenes, including the events, right? So I don't know, it's just we get into what we're doing, and sometimes we forget about certain things that we should be maybe focusing on more, in life. And do you have any regrets at this point in your game, or are you pretty satisfied?
Pretty satisfied, Andy. Try to balance things out, maybe not as much with the family. So this year, I'm going to actually step out of one tournament, and Sue and I are going to go to a wedding. It's in our family,
that's
and
nice.
It's extremely important. And the other thing is not spending as much time in the senior years for my mother, who is now 93, going on 93.
Wow.
And so, I really want to spend as much time, and I don't get to spend as much time with her as I think that would be. But it's a balance thing too. She still lives by herself, and I think sometimes we could do even more with our families. But we try to balance that. We try to go in. So we're going to step out of one tournament, which won't hurt us, and we're going to step out of one tournament and go to a wedding. So we've got to make sure, for our grandkids, because we have grandkids. I mean, and we have extended family, and all of our family lives away from us. So, that'd be my only regret, spending more time with family, at times when we travel. Even now we have to balance our travel. We travel, Andy, about 20,000 miles a year.
Wow, that's a lot of traveling.
I mean, I burn up trucks. I have to get a truck every year, every other year, because then they're worth, less.
Yeah.
So people don't think about that, just how much you spend on those kind of things. And I'll put 40,000, 50,000 miles on a vehicle in 2
Wow.
years.
Wow, that's a lot of, and that's miles, not kilometers, folks. That's
That's pulling boat miles.
yeah. Wow.
So we travel a lot of states and a lot of places. We've been as far as Pennsylvania, and we fly to Canada, of course, when we can. But we don't fly much. We drive. So we got a lot of miles. I went down, just kind of share a quick thing with you. I was asked to come down to do a radio show with ESPN Outdoors and Debbie Hansen down in the Naples area of Florida, which is the southern tip of Florida, almost in the Everglades. And she asked me to come down to do a 3-hour segment on crappie with the guides that go out in the salt marshes and out there with redfish and all those other big fish, and which I have never experienced. That is something I do want to do. And so she had me on the show on crappie. That was so rewarding to be able to talk to all of southern Florida as an impact in 3 hours. What amazing. Just like Andy with Canada with you.
Yeah.
What a great way to meet people, and they meet you through a visual. And, someday I'm not going to be able to do this anymore, And so I want to get as much of it in as I can before I can't anymore.
I think we all kind of look at that and thinking there'll be a day when we're not going to be able to do this anymore, and you're hoping that day is a long way away, when it comes down to it, right? So, but like it's I think our lives, all our lives that are in this game, is made up from those people you meet along the way that kind of give you that little bit of a personal satisfaction. And the fish are always great, but it's just that community that you're part of that really makes a difference. And I can't believe how much you travel. Like, that is, like, what's your furthest state you travel to? Like, are you traveling to California?
No, I'd love to, though, because in fact, a guy came to me about taking a flight out to California, and we fished some of those deep lakes for those big, huge crappie they're catching out there, the 3-pound plus crappie.
Yeah.
And so I took him up on it. I said, one of these days we're going to go and fly out there, and we're going to fish those fish. Wow. And that's coming. So I think the furthest that we drive is 12 hours away. Now, I have driven to Pennsylvania for writers conferences up there and fished those lakes up there in Pennsylvania on the Ohio and Pennsylvania border for crappie. And I mean, I had bonus days up there in those writer camps. I mean, I caught 60 crappie a day up there, and I had them up to almost 2 pounds. I caught the biggest one over 2 pounds. Had a writer catch one in my boat that was 2 pounds in a lake. They didn't even think they were that big. Wow. So that's cool, man. That's cool.
You know what? That is absolutely cool, dude. You know what? I don't know how to say it. I kind of feel bad, like, I think we could talk for an hour here and maybe longer. We do got more guests coming on, and tuning in. And we feel bad for them because, like, but ice fishing's been great up here this year. I don't know if you follow any of that stuff. Do you do any ice fishing in Florida?
I've got to do it. I had my editor go up, and he fished. I think it was 3 weeks ago, and we got some content, for the magazine.
Yeah.
And he says, Dan, you got to go. You got to go. Yeah. So when we come up for the next, when COVID's over, this thing's over with. Andy, I'm going to take you up. I'm coming up there. We're going to ice fish for crappie.
Dude, I got some great guys that'll put us on them, and I got room at my place. You can stay at my place, and we'll get on that. We'll get on Lake Simcoe. It's like 20 minutes from my house. It's absolutely great fishing, and maybe we'll get on some whitefish or some ling, or just some lake trout. Like, you're talking 20+ pound lake trout. So
wow,
all through the ice. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe you'll start doing ice fishing crappie shows here from Canada, right? That's probably.
I think so. I think you'll get me hooked on that. We can do that.
Well, if I can, obviously, Bob can. So
yes, he can. He can.
Man, I
No
just want
doubt
to
about it.
say hi to your wife for us, and we miss both of
Will.
you guys, and we're looking forward to next year already. I hope you are, and so mark that date in your calendar because we're going to be back. Our show will be full tilt next year, and we're pretty confident that's about to happen. And so we will see you 1 year today. Actually, we'll probably talk before then, but we'll see you
I'm look,
in a year from now. So thank you.
Andy, I'm looking forward to it. Tell your wife and family, everybody, hello for me. It's like family up there with us, and fishing's the bridge, the gap, no matter where we're at, no matter where we go.
Well, folks, I want to say thank you to my friend Dan, the crappie king, and he's going to be up here shortly. But you are the man. Thank you very much. And for all the folks that are tuning in this weekend, you know what? We're doing our best to bring you as many of our faces that you're familiar with at our show, and we're going to get personal with them. I think it's important that that you can hear what they have to say, listen to their stories, and see how genuine they are. That's the biggest part of what we're doing is trying to show you the genuine type of anglers that or promote speakers that we're bringing to the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, and we will continue to do come 2020. I hate to say 2023. Do you believe that? Anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one.